Woo pig suey, as they say up in Fayetteville. For the first time in over 2 years, the Hogs of Arkansas are moving on to the Super Regionals because the last 2 years they've been knocked out in the regional up there in Fayetteville. And they're taking on a very familiar foe in the Tennessee Volunteers. We are going to dive into the matchup of the Volunteers and the Hogs on this edition of the Stingray Show because this matchup and this series will not begin until Saturday. Right now, on this edition of the Stingray Show. And with that, I want to welcome you inside another edition of the Stingray Show and Heath of the issues with the SEC in the postseason. Arkansas, the Hogs had no issues in Fayetteville where they played their games this past weekend as they won on Friday 6-2. Then they won on Saturday 12-1 and finally wrapped it up on Sunday, moving to the Super Regionals, winning 8-2. So the Hogs had no issues this past weekend up in Fayetteville. However, their opponent, the Tennessee Volunteers, they had a little bit of a scare from the Wake Forest Demon Deacons.
Well, Stephen, I would argue, as I do every single season with anybody, the road to Omaha is not easy.
Right.
It never has been. That's why we love it. If it was easy, everybody would do it and win.
Mm-hmm.
And so, with that being said, people are like, oh, the SEC's trash this year. No, they're not. Look, it's just a hard season this year. It's a hard road. I will say this matchup this weekend, they're up on the hill with Arkansas and Tennessee. Stephen, this will be the best college baseball, I think, of all the regionals. It's the one regional I'm looking forward to. I like a couple of the other regionals because there's 2 3 seeds going at it. So there'll be a 3 seed, definitely in the World Series. But, dude, these two teams cannot wait. Vols and Hogs, baby.
So, to start off the Stingray Show and to break down this game from the Arkansas perspective, we are about to be joined by a managing editor for the Best of Arkansas Sports and the Arkansas Sports Writer of the Year back in 2020. Help us welcome to the Stingray Show, Mr. Andrew Hutchinson, who covers all things Arkansas Razorbacks. Andrew, how are things with you as we sit here and the Hogs are going to their first Super Regional in 2 years?
Yeah, I'm doing really well. Just kind of sitting here hoping and praying that the rain does not kind of put a damper on things weekend.
Right.
Andrew, we've never seen it. But if you read all the rules and the tournament rules, if rain rains out an entire regional or super regional, the high seed automatically moves on without any games being played. We've never seen it. I hope we never do. But that talk about burning the place, especially for a regional like this with 2 SEC teams.
Yeah.
But Andrew, a fun question before we dive into the Hogs. You were writer in 2020, writer of the year back in 2020. Is that because you were the only guy that showed up for work in 2020 and just kicked butt?
Yeah, it was an interesting year. I'll say that. Had to get really creative on how to figure out things to write when there was really nothing going on.
That's great.
So, now, Andrew, if you would go ahead and break down the regional there in Fayetteville, as Arkansas had not gotten out of a regional in 2 years to make it to a super regional, please.
I mean, it was pretty much a complete performance by Arkansas. I mean, they got really good pitching. 2 of the 3 starts by Arkansas pitchers were phenomenal. Zach Root on Saturday in that all-important 1-0 versus 1-0 game that Arkansas has kind of struggled in the last 2 years. He, I think, went like 6 scoreless or something like that. Then Gage Wood in the clincher on Sunday had 13 strikeouts in, I want to say, 6 innings or something like that. He was phenomenal as well. They wasn't great starting pitching on Friday, but when you're playing a 4 seed like North Dakota State, they were well under 500. They were able to piece it together on the mound and did just enough offensively to get through that game. So yeah, and they hit the ball well. I mean, they had 12 runs in the winners bracket game on Saturday. I think I want to say they hit like 10 home runs over the 3 games. They had 3 guys have multi-homer games, and I think a 4th had multiple home runs over different games. So it was a complete, and they had really good defense too. I mean, they didn't commit a single error over the weekend. So if you could it was almost a perfect weekend of baseball for Arkansas, but that was against North Dakota State and twice against Creighton. Talent level is about to go up this weekend against Tennessee.
Yeah.
Andrew, we've seen this Tennessee team. We know what they did last year, but that was last year. This team's been up and down all year. It's been a roller coaster. And we don't know what Tennessee team's going to show up, but that's what I'm not interested in. Tony Vitello, he's got a great relationship with Coach Van Horn. And I found out yesterday that Coach Van Horn bought Coach Vitello his very first car. I was shocked when I heard that story and I saw the video clip. But this goes way back. These guys are close. These guys are tight. They've worked together. They know each other's signs. They know each other's tricks. So there's not going to be a surprise element. It's just a mano-a-mano. We're going to have a slugfest, toe-to-toe. Let's just slug it out. You get knocked out, you go home. The winner goes to Omaha. What are you looking forward to the most with these 2 teams? What's something that we're not seeing?
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's something you're not seeing because you kind of touched on it there. I mean, I'm personally just really looking forward to seeing just these high caliber players. I mean, go head to head. I mean, you look at the Golden Spikes finalists came out yesterday. 2 of the 3 finalists are going to be in this series. I mean, you got Liam Doyle, the SEC Pitcher of the Year, and Vahiva Aloy, the Arkansas shortstop, who's the SEC Player of the Year. Both of them finalists for the Golden Spikes Award. They're going to be going head to head. You've got ESPN came out with an article last week before the regional started that had these are the most talented teams in college baseball in the tournament. Number 1 is Tennessee. Number 2 is Arkansas. I mean, this truly is a College World Series finals caliber of a series, and we're getting into a super regional. Like, it's a shame that both of these teams aren't going to be going to Omaha because they're both easily talented enough to do so. You mentioned the roller coaster aspect of Tennessee's season. That's probably why it's not happening, because they didn't do enough to earn a higher seed than 14th. So I'm personally just really, really looking forward to that and seeing how Arkansas can do against Liam Doyle again, because they handled him just fine, or probably gave him his worst start of the year in that final regular season series. Can they do it again, or does Doyle get a little bit of revenge? That's probably the number 1 storyline I'm most excited and anxious to see.
So, Andrew, hold that thought. We are up against our first break, and when we come back, we are going to dive more into the game up there in Fayetteville between Arkansas and Tennessee. That's on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Stingray Show. Andrew Hutchinson will continue with us right after this. Welcome back inside the Stingray Show. Hope all is well with everybody. We are discussing the big super regional matchup that involves 2 SEC teams that begins tomorrow afternoon between the Hogs of Arkansas and the Tennessee Volunteers from Knoxville. And this will take place up in Fayetteville. And Andrew, we talked about it before the break. You mentioned it. They are familiar faces. If you would, please break down the last regular season weekend when Arkansas took on Tennessee up there in Fayetteville.
Yeah, I mean, it was an exciting series. Tennessee took game 1. It was a little bit interesting. They switched up their rotation. I mean, obviously Liam Doyle, we just talked about him, SEC Pitcher of the Year. He's been their Friday night ace. But instead of pushing him up to Thursday, they went ahead and kept him on Friday to keep him at his normal rest. He pitched it, so they went with Marcus Phillips, the young right-hander, who's had some issues throughout the year, but has really come on strong, and he pitched really well. did a really good job. His biggest issue this year has been holding runners on base because teams have been just stealing bases like crazy with him on the mound. He attempted like 28 pickoff attempts during that game. It was a little bit annoying, but Tennessee did what it needed to do and won that game one, and they had Liam Doyle going game two. So I would imagine all Tennessee fans were feeling pretty good about where they sat in that series. But Arkansas came out in game two and really took it to Doyle. I think he's gave up like 6 earned runs, 8 total. Arkansas had like double-digit hits off of him, I want to say. They hit him like no one else has hit him this year, and they beat him. And then, of course, in game 3, Arkansas took care of business in a little bit more of an interesting game. They had one of their veteran guys, Will McIntyre, closed it out where he, I think, threw like 3 perfect innings or something like that to end it. So that was really interesting to see. Cole Gibbler, a freshman left-hander, pitched really well in that series. Those are 2 guys that aren't overpowering arms. Usually you think of Arkansas and Tennessee, you think of pitchers who are throwing 95 plus, touching 100. Those 2 guys are much more off-speed guys. Like their fastball is more in the 92, 93 range tops. But they have really good, Will McIntyre's got a cutter that's really, really tough to hit when it's on. And the slider for Cole Gibbler is going to make him a lot of money in the future. So those 2 guys are going to be guys that I would say kind of keep an eye on because they pitched really well in that regular season finale.
Right. Andrew, I'm very big on home team advantage and things of that nature. College baseball, sometimes you don't have it. Well, at Baum, you do. And the one thing I am looking forward to the most is when Tennessee travels to most schools, there's a lot of griping in the stands by the, home team when Tennessee's on the road of the chirpiness that Tennessee does. There won't be griping in the stands. There'll be like blood wanting to be in the streets by Arkansas fans when Tennessee starts all this chirpiness that they're known for doing, which is, I think, a complete joke. And it shows a lack of leadership. And I'll say it to Tony Vitello's face, and I think he is an excellent coach. But come on, man, this is absolutely ridiculous. And you're a joke. We are laughing at you, and we laugh harder when you lose. So with that being said, what do you think the fans – look, the fans at Arkansas are always at a 10. That's a wonderful environment for college baseball. It is always a 10 there at Baum. How is it going to be with the chirpiness and the crybabiness of the Volunteers coming up there this weekend? And speak for the fans on this one.
Okay, so here's the thing. Like, I was not alive for this event, but I've been told, or I've heard some people say that this may be the biggest sporting event on campus since the 1991 number 1 versus number 2 Arkansas UNLV basketball game at Barnhill Arena, where Larry Johnson,
I remember that game.
and it was, and that was a big deal. I've read up all about it and everything like that. Again, I wasn't alive. My dad has told me about it.
I was in middle school.
And so I think it's going to be something along those lines in terms of just the sheer atmosphere and environment. If you look at StubHub or any of these other secondary markets at the ticket prices for this weekend, their tickets are going for over $1,000. Now, I don't know who would pay $1,000 for one game of a 3-game series. But it's going to be intense. I have a feeling this is going to be one of the more lively environments in Baum-Walker Stadium history, just because it is, one, it's a super regional, so you got the Omaha on the line, but it's an SEC team. It's Tennessee, the reigning national champions, coached by Tony Vitello. When you throw in the kind of the attitude and the style of play that you were talking about for Tennessee, it's going to be incredible. I'm very much looking forward to kind of being there and in the middle of it, because it's going to be a really, really fun environment. And the chippiness is going to be exciting. If anybody gets tossed, which is totally possible. We've seen 2 or 3 Tennessee players get ejected throughout the year. They're going to be without their starting catcher in game 1 because he got ejected from the last game against Wake Forest. So I think it's going to be incredible. It's going to be probably the most intense environments I've ever been a part of in a baseball game. I would imagine it's going to be similar to when I visited Rupp Arena this year when Arkansas came back with John Calipari. And that was probably one of the more intense environments I've been a part of, and I think this is going to be right up there with it.
Wow.
So, Andrew, I hate to ask this because we're rolling so well, but if Arkansas is going to stay home and if they're going to lose this series, what are a couple of things that could derail Arkansas and keep them from going to Omaha?
I think we talked about this last week with the regional, and it's the same thing, the starting pitching. If Zach Root gets knocked around and, only gives you like 3 or 4 innings, and then Gage Wood doesn't have it and he gives you 3 or 4 innings, you don't know. I don't know who they're going to start as a third starter. It's been Aiden Jimenez. He's a guy that was really, really good out of the bullpen. He started twice now. It has not gone well, including against Tennessee at the end of the regular season. So if you're only getting 3 or 4 innings out of your starters all 3 games, I mean, Arkansas's got an incredibly deep bullpen, one of the deepest in the country, but even that's going to put way too much stress on your bullpen. So I think the starting pitching has to be at least solid, if not great, because Tennessee's a very good team, very good offensive team. They're going to put up some runs, but you got to get some length out of your starting pitching, so that way you can bring in and cycle through all those relievers that they have. And if you can get to the bullpen with a lead, I'd feel pretty good about them. But you got to get a good start out of your starters.
Looking at this super regional, is there anything that raises an eyebrow like this goes into Arkansas's favor big time? Is there anything that you see, any matchups, whatever it might be? Is there something that catches your eye saying, this is interesting?
Yeah, I think it would have to be defense for both of these two teams. Arkansas is one of the top defensive teams, fielding teams in the country. I think they're like number 2 nationally, just percentage points behind number 1. Tennessee is not a good fielding team. We've seen them commit some really costly errors. I mean, Dean Curley is a tremendous hitter, but he's committed some just crucial errors for them. And so I think that may be the difference, or could be the difference, I should say, because if you give Arkansas extra outs, this lineup that they have is very, very dangerous. And just the same way the other way around. In Tennessee, if you give them extra outs, they're going to make you pay. Arkansas is less likely, or less kind of proven to be less likely to give those extra outs to Tennessee, to the other team, whereas Tennessee, when they've struggled, that's been one of the issues. I think they're like 150th or something like that in the country in terms of fielding. So not nearly the level that we've seen from Tennessee before. And that could be a big time difference.
So, Andrew, the first matchup of the Super Regional is on Saturday, 4 p.m. on ESPN, and the second game is going to be at 2 p.m. on Sunday, and then, of course, you've got one on Monday if needed. Who do you have winning the Super Regional in Fayetteville and ultimately moving on to the greatest show on dirt of Omaha, Nebraska?
I mean, this is going to be a incredibly close series, I think. I don't think either team's going to blow either one out.
Right.
You could easily see this going 3 games. I think I lean Arkansas just because it is in Fayetteville. It is at Baum-Walker Stadium. There's going to be that home field advantage that we talked about. And, this may be a little bit silly, but if you look back in Arkansas's history under Dave Van Horn, their trips to the College World Series have been 3 years apart, except for when they went back-to-back in 2018 and 2019. But they went in 2009, then 12, then 15, then 18. Then you had the back-to-back with 19, and then 19 to 22, 22 plus 3, 2025. So, I mean, you could say it's math. I don't know, but so I'm going to pick Arkansas to win, but it would not surprise me either way because Tennessee is such a good and talented team.
Andrew Hutchinson, the math elite here on the show today, breaking out all the math for us. You were a communication major. They don't do math, right? That's what we used to tell ourselves.
Well, here's the funny thing. I did minor in math in school, so I'm a numbers guy.
Right.
Nothing wrong with that.
So,
Andrew, quick fun thing. See if you can't get whoever's in charge of music there at the Bomb this weekend to play some AC/DC. If you want blood, you got it. Especially after Tennessee's been a little chippy and there's a big inning by Arkansas. I was like, hit my music, man. I want to see that place pop this way. It's going to pop no matter what. It always pops every game. But I cannot wait to see these two. They're not going to battle. They're going to clash. It is going to be blood in the streets, and can't wait for it.
So, Andrew, look, man, thank you for taking time to join us. Good luck to the Hogs this weekend over Tennessee. I know for a fact all of the Alabama fans are pulling for you Hogs because they cannot stand Tennessee. And so you've got a bunch of fans here in Tuscaloosa pulling for you guys. And hopefully we can catch up with you next week when we will preview Arkansas back in Omaha.
Sounds good. Anytime, guys.
Thank you, Andrew. And
Thank
Andrew,
you, man.
Skipper Jones won't be watching because he said he wasn't going to watch any team that doesn't show class. So Tennessee has ruined that for you guys. So, but I loved his tweet yesterday about it.
Love it.
So, Heath, that wraps up the Woo Pig Suey side of this matchup. When we come back on the Stingray Show, we are going to be doing the National Day of Today and the National History of Today, and then we will finish up with the Tennessee side of this in our final segment. Next up, once again, is the National Day of Today and the National History of Today. We will be right back.
Steven, I got that AC/DC song stuck in my head. If you want blood, you got it. Can't wait for Super Regional Baseball, brother.
Ooh, Pig Suey! Let's go, baby. Knock
wow.
Knock
you just
off.
did that.
Knock
You just
off
did that.
Tennessee. Let's go. Welcome back inside the Stingray Show. Hope all is well with you. And we're actually going to throw you a little bit of a curveball because before the break, I said that we were going to do the National History and the National Day of Today. Heath, we have not been live, you and I, talking about baseball this week. So let's go on ahead and do a recap of the regionals. And brother, the SEC went into the weekend of regionals with 13 teams in. 9 of them went home last weekend. They got their butts handed to them in the regional round.
Yeah, some we saw coming, some we did not. I mean, Vandy in Texas, it doesn't shock me. I mean, being the number 1 seed was a curse until last year.
Yeah.
But I'd still say it's still a curse because you got the biggest target on your back. Vandy did not look good at their regional at all. They should have lost their opening game, and then they ended up losing later. But, Vandy losing, Bama losing there in Hattiesburg, Mississippi State losing there in Tallahassee, just going through, looking at all the games here. Oklahoma losing there at Chapel Hill. Florida trying to make a run at it, but, Coastal Carolina got them. Auburn looked good. So on the left side of the bracket, Stephen, on the left side,
yeah,
I mean, you've got one team from the SEC that made it in?
Mm-hmm.
One team on the left side of the bracket. You go to the right side of the bracket, you got Arkansas there, you got Tennessee. Of course, they're playing this weekend, so one of them's going to knock themselves out. Give props to Kentucky. I thought they showed a little hoop spa there.
Yes.
And it showed a little fight. But I don't think anyone gave Kentucky a chance in this postseason after that great run last year. LSU, they had some problems with Little Rock, the 4 seed.
I know.
And again, Stephen, it's not the best team that wins. It's the hottest team. And Arkansas Little Rock got hot in that regional. They just ran out of gas. They ran out of pitching.
Yep.
But, Georgia, wow, they looked bad. Ole Miss looked bad, fought through, looked like they were going to pull it out, cardiac style. And then they fell short there at the end in their comeback. Yep. And then Texas, man, I don't even know what to say about Texas. That was just I don't know what to say, man. I really don't. That was just,
It was a bad weekend for the SEC.
yeah. But again, like I said in our opening segment when we started the show, the road to Omaha is extremely hard every single year.
Yeah.
It is super tough every single year. And man, yeah. But another thing, Stephen, if you like the underdog stories, and most Americans, if not all Americans, love an underdog story. The SEC has turned into the villain in sports.
Yeah.
They got the most money. They concentrate the most on sports. They spend the most on sports. It's hardest to get to playing in that league. And so when you come into a regional, you've got a massive target on you. Everybody wants to beat the SEC team. Doesn't matter if you're the 2 or 3 seed. 1, 2, or 3. None of the SEC teams are a 4 seed.
Right.
But yeah, they got the biggest target on their back. So there you go, man.
All right. So moving to the super regionals, the underdog stories that are still dancing include Coastal Carolina, which travel down to Auburn. Then you've got UTSA, the Roadrunners of Texas San Antonio, going out west to take on the Bruins of UCLA. And Heath, the winner of the Oxford Regional, the Murray State team that won a game in the postseason on that Friday night for the first time since 1979. And now they're going to their first ever super regional in program history. They are going to Raleigh-Durham to take on Duke.
Did you see that coach for Murray State? Did you see him at all?
No.
Oh my gosh. Like, I think he has in his contract, if he won the regional, he doesn't have to take his driver's permits test. He automatically gets his license. That kid looks like he's 15 years old.
Yeah.
And he's been the coach there. I looked him up. He's been the coach there for like 8 years.
Yes.
He's got a kid, I won't say a 9-year-old son. But I was just blown away. I was like, good Lord, is that a player? And I was like, yeah, guy super young. I found this out, Stephen. I want to say Murray State's paying him like $70,000 or $80,000. And here's the sad thing: I don't think he'll get a pay raise after this year because I don't think Murray State can afford it, and that's tragic. But you know what? The coaching carousel's already kicked up. Some jobs are already closed. We'll get to that later.
Yeah.
But yeah, that Murray State coach, he might get himself a new job after this weekend.
Heath, do you know what shocked me a little bit?
What's that?
Think about this. The Big Ten in baseball would have been left out of the postseason if it weren't for the new additions of Oregon, UCLA, and USC, because no other team in the East or the Central qualified for the postseason for the Big Ten.
Yeah. Michigan used to be a big-time baseball school. So did Ohio State. Ohio State used to be a powerhouse. Michigan made a run a couple of years ago, lost to Vanderbilt in the finals, but that was the first time in like well over a decade a Big Ten team had even made it to Omaha, just making it there, not the championship game, just getting there, being one of the final 8 teams. So the Big Ten looks at baseball kind of how the SEC looked at basketball about 10 years ago. Yeah. They just didn't care. They were loading up on football. They were spending all their money, the arms race of indoor facilities and this and that and whatever else. And but that's somewhat changed. But yeah, but Steven, it's kind of hard to play baseball up there. I mean, he's on February 14th. You know what the weather's like in Ann Arbor, Michigan on February 14th?
Cold.
You know what the weather is at Northwestern on February 14th?
Snowy.
Yeah, I mean, Iowa. I mean, it's bad, brother. It's bad.
So, Heath, of the Power 4 conferences remaining, the ACC has Louisville, Miami, Florida State, North Carolina, and Duke. The Big 12 has West Virginia and newcomer Arizona. And then the Big Ten has the Bruins of UCLA, and then the SEC has LSU, Auburn, Arkansas, and Tennessee. And then the other ones that are remaining, like we talked about, UTSA, Murray State, and Coastal Carolina. Oh, and the Independent that made its own schedule this season up in Corvallis of Oregon State.
Yeah, you look at the American Athletic Conference. The one team with the Roadrunners meet there, San Antonio, UT San Antonio, and then I like those orange and blue uniforms though; those are kind of sharp.
Yeah.
But the Ohio Valley Conference with Murray State. When's the last time Ohio Valley Conference had a team in a super regional? I should have looked that up before we got going today.
Right.
Maybe I'll have that for our show tomorrow. But you look at these little schools. The Sun Belt got one in. In Coastal Carolina. So This is fun, man. This is fun. And again, we talked about it last segment. You like when the underdogs kind of make a run here. You kind of like that. So who's not pulling for Murray State? Who's not pulling for Coastal Carolina? Well, no one at Auburn is. I know that, but no one at Oxford's pulling for Murray State. I can tell you that.
Right.
But we like these little small schools. We like UTSA. So it's going to be fun to see what these guys do. But, we see Oregon State, and they're not an underdog. They've been one of the powerhouses in college baseball for years, but they're home without a conference, and they had to play majority of their games on the road.
Yeah.
A super majority. And so that's why they got to host this year. And that's why they've made the super regional. So proud of those guys.
Heath, another super regional that I'm really looking forward to is the one down the road on the other side of the state of Alabama, down at Auburn. Coastal Carolina comes in red hot to Auburn, Alabama, where Auburn is hosting their first ever super regional at home. That should be a barn burner for sure in Auburn.
I didn't know that. I didn't know Auburn. This is the first time they've hosted a super. Good for them.
Now, they've been to a bunch of super regionals on the road, but they've never hosted one.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Look at the situation that's building right now. And Auburn is not looking like a slouch. They're looking primed, ready, focused. They played some great baseball over the weekend. Not good baseball, great baseball. And then you got the Chanticleers, Coastal Carolina coming in. And like you said, they're hot. That's going to be a barn burner of a series, man. It really is. It really, really is. And here's the thing, Stephen. That series can be decided by like one bullpen guy just having an off night. Can't find the strike zone. That entire series can come down to a random bullpen guy for either team who just can't find the strike zone, has found it all year long and just won't be able to find it for one night this entire year. And that's what happens. That's baseball. That's why we love it. That's why we watch it.
So for those of you, before we go to break, that are interested in Auburn and Coastal Carolina, that will be the late game on Friday at 8 p.m. on ESPN2. They're in Auburn, Alabama, as game one of the Super Regional opens.
I don't like that they're the late game.
Yeah.
I don't think that's fair to either one of those schools.
Yeah.
I have not looked at the schedule. Who's got the early games?
I just pulled it down, man.
I know.
North Carolina, Arizona is at 11 a.m. tomorrow. Miami and Louisville is at 2. Florida State, Oregon State is at 5. And then Auburn, Coastal Carolina is at 8.
Wow.
So there are 4 games tomorrow and a bunch more on Saturday.
Yeah, everyone plays on Saturday.
Yeah.
And you might ask, why do they do that? Why isn't not everybody playing? Because in Omaha, you'll play either the Thursday game or the Friday game once you get up there. And so the teams that'll play on Thursday will start their super regionals first.
Yeah.
and that's what we'll have. So actually, Stephen, I think they've moved it back where the first game in Omaha is on Friday because they want to give these guys like a full week of rest. So if you start the game on Friday in your super regional, come Friday next week, you'll have a full week of rest like you do during the regular season.
So, Heath, we're up against our final break, and when we come back, we are going to dive into the Arkansas and Tennessee matchup from the Tennessee side of things, as we're going to be joined by a writer from the Daily Times out of Maryville up there to talk about the Tennessee Volunteers. That's on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Stingray Show. We will finish it up talking Tennessee baseball right after this. And I will not sing Rocky Top, and I will not say Go Vols.
Wow.
I hate Rocky Top, that song.
What, man, where's all this frustration coming from?
No, I'm one of those people, I do not like that song, Rocky Top.
Bartender, get Steven a double.
I will play every other fight song on this show, but except Rocky Top, man. I can't do it.
Wow.
I can't do it.
Whoa.
No.
Wow. What?
Welcome back inside the final segment of the Stingray Show. We are talking about college baseball and super regionals, and we started off the show talking about the Fayetteville regional from the Arkansas perspective. Now let's finish up the Stingray Show talking about it from the defending national champions, the Tennessee perspective, as Tennessee had a little bit of a pushback from Wake Forest in the regional round this past weekend. And to help break down the Tennessee side of the super regional there for the Fayetteville super regional, here is our friend Caleb Jarreau from the Daily Times out of Maryville, Tennessee. Caleb, how are things with you as we sit here before the super regional round with Arkansas for Tennessee?
Yeah, I'm happy to be on here, guys. Obviously, staying busy, flying out super early Saturday to go out to Fayetteville and see what happens in the super regional. And I figure, just like me, that'll probably be the regional everybody's eyes are on. So I'm happy to talk about it.
Caleb, Tony Vitello, phenomenal coach. No one's debating it. But you even got Hall of Famers and MLB players and things like that talking so negative about Tony, of how his team's chirping us. We've heard it from other college coaches. We've heard it from other college fan bases. If drama keeps following you, I'm a subscriber to You're the Problem if drama always follows you wherever you go. With that being said, is Tony doing this for show, or why is he doing all this?
Yeah, that's an interesting question to start it off. I know Chipper came out and actually said he was talking about Georgia and the O'Sullivan situation. I don't know if you saw that at Coastal Carolina.
I sure did.
So he made sure to clear the air that it wasn't about Tennessee. But yeah, I think for Tony Vitello, that's kind of been part of his mantra, is to play a fun brand of baseball and be kind of a fun head coach. And when he got to Tennessee and the state the program is in, that's kind of what it needed, was somebody who could kind of light that spark and be that person. And I think Tennessee's kind of adopted that chirpiness and that mantra. I don't think it'll ever get as bad as it was in 2022 with that team that had Drew Gilbert and those guys. But I think that's just kind of the way Tennessee's going to play baseball. And it works for Tony because he's a good recruiter. He gets kids who want to play that way. I mean, it's an energetic style of baseball. The fans buy in. Yeah, lots of home runs. They make use of the short porch in Lindsey Nelson Stadium. So I'm also of the mind, growing up, I was never a big, fan of chirpiness or anything like that. But for Tony Vitello and Tennessee, they win. So something's working and the formula is there. So it ends up working out most of the time. I'm sure everybody's all up in arms about the NCAA and everything that goes with that, and the no fun zone and all of that stuff. But Tennessee's not alone in it. I mean, you see other teams give it right back to them. And that's part of the thing is, if you're going to dish it out, you got to take it when you get beat. You saw that with Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt gave them their fair share of words when they took that series. And I think that comes with playing for Tennessee. If you want to play that way and you want to be loud, then you got to take it in return when you get beat.
I do know Tony Vitello has won phenomenal, grinding recruiter, just superb. Maybe no one better as far as working harder in America. You go to any competitive tournament any weekend, Tony Vitello is there. He is always there recruiting the top talent. But you said fun. There's a lot of college baseball teams that have fun that aren't chirpy. And that'd be the only pushback that I think you'll get from all college baseball fans is you can have plenty of fun without the chirpiness. But as far as Tony Vitello, we've had Ben McDonald on the show. We've had other people on the show. Steve Robertson from 247 has been a long-time college baseball follower and writer. And they've all said the same thing. Off the field, Tony is awesome. He is a super great guy. On the field, he's a complete jerk. He's an idiot, and he gets laughed at. And I hate that for Tony because I think he's taken away from himself long-term from that. With all of that being said, I wanted to point it to this question. Baum Walker Stadium, phenomenal atmosphere for college baseball. Those fans, they want blood in the streets before Tennessee even gets there. I think this is going to be the greatest super regional round that we have in college baseball this weekend. Hands down, I don't think it's anywhere close. And I think it's because of the talent, not because of the chirpiness. I think it's because of the talent. I know it's because of the talent. With that being said, what is the one thing you look forward to the most, whether it be a matchup, a situation, whatever? What is the one thing you look toward the most with Tennessee and Arkansas this weekend up in Fayetteville?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head that the fans are already wanting blood before Tennessee ever steps in. I know there's clips circulating from when Vitello was there about how he called Baum Walker, one of the toughest places to play in America. And it is. It's a beautiful stadium with a rabid fan base. And truthfully, obviously now with basketball for Arkansas and football coming along, I guess you could say, for a long time, though, for Arkansas, it was just baseball. It was Dave Van Horn's group, and that's what that town and that place and that SEC environment invested in the most was baseball. And I still think you'll see that this weekend. Tony Vitello's antics, like you said, get him in trouble sometimes, but he's a winner. So I mean,
he is a winner, big winner.
At the end of the day, like you said, he's a different guy on the field than off, but the players love to play for him, and he wins baseball games. So I think from a Tennessee standpoint, you got to put up with some of the stuff that comes along with that. And I think this weekend, truthfully, it'll come down to really if Tennessee's offense can play how it should. Because I think Tennessee has one of the most talented, if not the most talented rosters left, and Arkansas would be, if Tennessee's 1A, Arkansas's 1B, if Arkansas's 1A, Tennessee's 1B from talent just on the roster. But we haven't seen that this year from Tennessee. They haven't been a consistent group, and I think the regional kind of embodied that too, where Tennessee rolled through its first two opponents based off with Wake Forest, lost to Wake Forest on Sunday, but then came around on Monday and blew them out. So it depends, I think, what Tennessee team shows up. You've got a couple guys in this lineup like Dalton Bargo and Hunter Inslee who have kind of been not their best at the plate recently. Lots of ground balls, lots of double plays that have kind of been hindering the offense. So truthfully with you, I think it'll be hard to beat Arkansas when Tennessee's playing at its best, but for it to be a competitive series, it depends what Tennessee team shows up. Because at this point, you know that you're going to get a standout start from Liam Doyle, and you know that Marcus Phillips will keep you competitive. It's just a matter of who fills in the rest, and then if the offense can help out those pitchers.
How's the bullpen? What kind of shape is the bullpen in for Tennessee?
Yeah, I think it's in great shape, truthfully, heading into this super regional, kind of at a different point than it was from the start of the year for sure. You've got a guy like Brandon Arvinson, who's really come out of his shell recently, and he was a JUCO guy last year. And so with him, you kind of expected that he would iron out some of his wrinkles as the season went on, and he got to play a lot more. But he had a standout start against Texas in the SEC tournament that allowed them to end up winning that game. He came in against Wake Forest and threw, I think it was 6 shutout innings. He set career high in innings pitched, career high in strikeouts with 12 or 13. He gave up 5 earned in his first 2-ish innings, but he came around to strike out 12 and really settled in. So I think a guy like that is going to need a standout performance. One of the question marks in that bullpen, though, is Nate Snead right now. Obviously, everybody knows he can throw 101, 102, and he's got really good stuff, but he's kind of struggled recently with missing bats. So I think he's a guy that'll have to play well this weekend. And then you've got a good group of lefties between Dylan Loy and a couple others who can come in and kind of be spot guys too. So I think the bullpen is in a good spot. AJ Russell, another guy I forgot to mention, he's fully back from injury, ended up starting that Monday game for Tennessee after already pitching this weekend. So the bullpen really feels like they're in a good spot. And luckily this year they've been able to share innings a good bit. And part of that too is because of the standout starts from Liam Doyle and Marcus Phillips. So I don't think those guys are burnt out at all, which in college baseball we see this time of year, guys start to get tired. But you just have to get good performances from guys you know can perform. Tanner Franklin's another guy that can run triple digits, but he's got to miss bats. So
Great.
I think as long as those guys pitch to their capability, it's the same as the offense. You know that they have it there, and on paper they should be good. It's just a matter of if they come out and execute.
So, Caleb, would you please talk about this matchup that we saw between Tennessee and Arkansas the last regular season weekend there in Fayetteville?
Yeah, I think it'll be similar to what you see this weekend. It's two of the best teams in the country competing, two programs who, at least for the past 5 or 6 years, have been at the top of the game, and two programs that really don't like each other either. I mean, there's 3 Golden Spikes finalists across the country, and 2 of them are going to be playing each other this weekend.
Yep.
So I think it's a matchup that you have to watch. It's going to be good baseball. And I think, truthfully, Stingray, when you look at the regular season matchup, it was kind of the turning point for Tennessee. I wouldn't say turning point is not a good word, but it was a game for Tennessee after they had ended that season on the skid, where you saw the way they played at Arkansas, and you kind of reminded everybody, hey, this is a team that can compete for a national championship. They've just played terrible baseball down the back stretch. So I think that Arkansas game kind of showed what Tennessee could do. But then Arkansas, what pitching approach does Tennessee take? Arkansas had the best offense in the SEC, one of the best offenses in the country. And a question mark for Arkansas is how will they play in the postseason? Well, they hit over 300 this weekend in their regional and swept it in 3 games.
Right.
So I think from both sides, you look at Tennessee comes into this, I feel like they don't have a lot of pressure on their back coming into Arkansas because Arkansas is supposed to be the better team. Tennessee's coming off a national championship. So if they fall, they had one last year, kind of recency bias. But I think just coming into this matchup, it'll really be what we saw in the regular season, which is 2 really good baseball teams, 2 really good pitching staffs. And I really think it comes down to which offense performs the best in Baum Walker. Will Tennessee be able to string hits together 1 through 9? During that Arkansas series, they got a lot of good production out of the bottom half of the lineup. Will that continue again in this super regional, or will that falter? So I would look for the offenses, because I think with both of these teams, the pitching staffs, you kind of know what you're going to get. I mean, Liam Doyle is a Golden Spikes finalist. He'll get a start for Tennessee. Arkansas knows they have to deal with that. Arkansas will have guys who can shut down Tennessee's lineup as well. So I think it's which offense will break through, and I think that's what you saw in the regular season as well.
So, Caleb, if there is one thing or multiple things that could send Tennessee home for the remainder of the postseason and make them avoid Omaha again, what would that be this weekend?
Yeah, I think defense is the biggest one. Defense let Tennessee down the stretch. I know I've mentioned that Vanderbilt series already, but Vanderbilt, and I think Arkansas has that a little bit in their wheelhouse too, where they like to play small ball, and they don't prioritize the home run like Tennessee does at times, and really puts pressure on defenses. So I know Arkansas can play that way, but when you look at teams that Tennessee struggled with this year, Kentucky was one of those teams that loves to lay down the bunt and really get on base and steal bases. Tennessee struggled. Vanderbilt really loves to lay down the bunt, put the ball in play, steal bases. Tennessee struggled. So I think Tennessee is a different team from those games right now, particularly Marcus Phillips has really improved how he's managed the run game. He picked off Cincinnati's leading base stealer, and if you know anything about Cincinnati, they were top 15 in stolen bases this year. So he's really put an emphasis on managing the run game and paying attention to those base runners. So I would look for, how does Tennessee's pitching staff manage the base runners? Stolen bases have been a problem. And does the defense make the routine plays, and does it make the routine plays look hard? You really get those double plays when you have them. Make sure that you don't give any guys extra 90s. Make sure your outfielders, are awake the whole game. I think that'll be the difference, especially when you're playing against 2 really good teams. If your outfielder falls asleep or misses a throw to third and a guy's able to tag up, that could be the difference in one of these baseball games.
Oh, yeah.
So I think defense is what you need to circle for Tennessee, because like I said, offense will be up and down, but you know that already. You know what you're getting from your offense, your pitching staff. You know what guys will throw good. You know that you got Liam Doyle and Marcus Phillips, who will usually give you at least 4 to 6 good innings and keep you competitive in a baseball game. You just need that defense to really lock in behind them and play the way that they have this past weekend, and not what they did in SEC play when they dropped a couple series that were filled with just, truthfully, bad fundamental baseball all around. Hey, and Tennessee practiced yesterday, actually. I'll throw this in, didn't mean to cut you off, but Tennessee practiced on the natural surface of the Knoxville Smoky Stadium, the AA affiliate, this week instead of their own turf, because they're going to be playing on dirt and grass at Baum Walker. So getting ahead of that, getting used to, having dirt under your feet after playing on turf all year and all weekend, I think is important too.
You know, I saw some crazy stat and I was trying to pull it up on my phone and I couldn't find it. But when is the last time Tennessee has beaten Arkansas in a series? Because it's been a very long time, and I was shocked on that. But also, the other thing I want to throw in, Tony Vitello and Dave Van Horn, they're buddies. They've worked together. They're colleagues. Dave Van Horn bought him his first car. Tony Vitello his first car. I mean, they speak glowing of each other. They know each other's signs. They know each other's tricks. They know each other's everything. So with that being said, you know, I don't think there's going to be anything shocking happen this weekend between the two. I think it's just going to be a slugfest between two teams. But with that being said, when's the last time that Tennessee has beaten Arkansas? And do you expect anything out of the blue with these two being so familiar with each other, coaching head to head?
I want to say their last series win in Fayetteville was 2001 or 2005.
Yeah, I knew
Because
it's been a long
that
time.
was the year with Luke Hochaver, who Liam Doyle just broke his record, and Tennessee also had Chase Headley that season, who obviously went on to enjoy a pro career. So it was either 05 or 01. It might have been 01. Might have been 01 in Fayetteville, 05 in Knoxville. Something. It's been a while. It's been over 10 years at least. So yeah, you're right. I think you hit the nail on the head. These two coaches know each other like the back of their hand. These two programs know each other very well. So I think when you have that kind of in consideration, I think it'll really come down to just which baseball team plays better, which baseball team has the better players, because it will be a slugfest. So do you get this time of year, it's all about big performances, which you saw from Wake Forest and the Knoxville Regional to keep them competitive. So which team kind of has a guy who puts on that big performance? And I think for Tennessee, you really look to the pitching staff, and Tony Vitello has mentioned this 100 times over. Liam Doyle is kind of the tone setter for this team, and how he goes is usually how the team goes, because you've seen how he pitches, really energetic, always trying to hype up the crowd. Obviously, he won't be doing that in Baum Walker, but he pitches with a lot of energy, pitches with a lot of fight on the mound. So I think you look for a guy like him or even Marcus Phillips to really set that tone on the mound, and you hope the rest of the team follows, because I'm with you. These two coaches know each other very well. They always talk with a lot of respect for each other. Vitello mentioned in one of his press conferences this weekend that he was happy SEC play was over, because him and Dave Van Horn were joking about how they're tired of beating up on other SEC teams all year. And now he's got to go back to Fayetteville and run it back and try to beat up on another SEC team again. So I agree with you. I think whenever you know each other as well as these two teams do, it just comes down to who's going to play better, who's going to execute, and who's going to get big performances. So I'd look for the two Golden Spikes finalists in this one to kind of set the tone for these two groups. But man, postseason baseball, you really don't know. You don't know what to expect. So I'm really excited for this series and to see what happens. I think it'll probably go to Game 3. Honestly, if you ask me for a prediction, and I think whoever plays best this weekend will come out.
So, Caleb, who do you have winning the Fayetteville Regional and moving on to Omaha, the greatest show on dirt?
I would pick Arkansas in 3 games. I think Baum Walker is a really, really, really tough place to play. And I was talking with a former player this weekend who helps with the radio now, and he said that SEC stadiums are easily the hardest places you'll ever play, because the fans are on top of you. No matter where you go, you can't escape it. Because I asked him, this weekend Tony Vitello lost his first regional game since they were in Chapel Hill in 2019 and got eliminated. So I was like, is Chapel Hill a hard place to play? And he was like, really? SEC stadiums are the hardest because the fans are on top of you. So whether there's 5,000 fans or 12,000 fans, it feels like you're drowning in just how loud it is. So I think Baum Walker will be a tough place to play, and postseason Baum Walker will probably spot Arkansas, 2 to 3 runs.
Right.
And I think Tennessee can probably sneak out a win with Liam Doyle, but I think when you get to Game 3, it'll just be a matter of which team is deeper on the pitching mound, and like I said, which offense comes through. And I would pick Arkansas when you get to that Sunday and kind of have to piece it together. So, or I guess Monday in this case, because it's a Saturday to Monday series. So I would take Arkansas in 3 games. I think we're in for a good one and should get some good baseball.
Caleb, fun question. Who was one pitcher from last weekend in the regional and one hitter for Tennessee that kind of stepped up and carried this team? And do you think they both stay hot going into the super regional?
Yeah, I think pitching-wise, Liam Doyle is the obvious answer. I was of the mind, and I know a lot of others were as well, that he shouldn't have started the first game of the regional, I would rather him start the second game because you're playing Miami, Ohio in that first game. But they rolled him out in that Friday game, and it ended up coming in clutch because he was able to close out Monday. So Wake Forest was fighting in that Monday game, obviously winner take all, and Tennessee had a lead. But then once Liam Doyle came in, you kind of felt the energy from Wake Forest dissipate, and they weren't able to touch him. So I would pick Liam Doyle for one because, like I said, I think he's the tone setter for this team with the way he pitches. You need to get a good start out of him. Arkansas, he got roughed up. And then after that Arkansas outing, his next one was in Hoover against Texas. He also had some struggles. So hopefully, I think he'll start probably game 2 this weekend if I had to bet, because he threw 104 pitches Friday, and then he added more on Monday, and just kind of a stressful weekend because a lot of those pitches were not easy either. So
Right.
I think when you add that in, I think it'll be best for him to start game 2 and Marcus Phillips go game 1 so he gets extra rest. So I would circle him. And then truthfully at the plate, I think this past weekend it was kind of everybody got theirs. I mean, Manny Marin, the 9-hole, who's a freshman who might be 180 pounds soaking wet, was able to hit a home run and kind of came out of his shell too. But offensively, I think you pick Andrew Fisher. I think you got to go with the duo that's carried you all year. Andrew Fisher has reached base in every game. So he's always on base. He's always a guy that you can kind of count on at the plate with runners on. And I think a good thing about him is he kind of falls into the trap of trying to swing for the fence every time. But also when he's got like runners on second and third, less than 2 outs, he's making sure he's putting the ball in play to get a run home. And I think you're going to need that a lot in this super regional. So I would circle him. Another X factor would be Gavin Keelan, obviously big name that everybody's known since he's come back from his hamstring injury. He's looked really good, especially at the shortstop position. And then I think, truthfully, besides those two, I think those, you know what you're going to get, and they need to stay hot. You also need Dalton Bargo and Hunter Inslee in your 3-4 spot or your 4-5 spot, depending on the lineup, to kind of find their spark again and come through, because obviously everybody knows Hunter Inslee and what he did for Tennessee last year in the postseason. Dalton Bargo's had a good year as well. But those two guys have, like I mentioned earlier, kind of fallen into the ground ball trap of the past couple of weeks, and they're struggling at the plate. And I think you'll need a couple key hits out of those guys to pull out a win this weekend. So I listed a lot more than one player, but final answer, I'll go the Ole Miss transfer duo, Liam Doyle, Andrew Fisher. They've been the key to this team, kind of the two guys you circle. So I'll lean with those two.
So Caleb, enjoy Fayetteville this weekend. Be safe traveling over there, and hopefully Tennessee can get a much-needed win on the road in Fayetteville to go back to Omaha.
Thanks, Stingray. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Caleb, take care. Enjoy the weekend, brother.
Appreciate you.
All right, so Heath, that is going to wrap up our preview show of Tennessee and Arkansas this weekend in the super regional round. Really do want to thank Caleb Jarreau right there from the Daily Times of Maryville, Tennessee. And then earlier we had on Andrew Hutchinson, if I could speak correctly, from Arkansas. When we come back tomorrow evening, we're going to be joined by SEC Networks On and LSU golfer alum Peter Burns will stop by to talk with us about the SEC meetings in Destin and to recap the regional round and to preview the super regional round that begins tomorrow evening. So we will be joined by Peter Burns tomorrow evening right back here on the Stingray Show at 6 p.m. And Heath, we will continue to talk a little college baseball on the Friday evening edition of the Stingray Show.
Man, Stephen, such a wonderful time of the year, and absolutely love super regional baseball. Yeah, I lean toward super regional baseball being a little bit more exciting than Omaha because you got the home crowds.
Yes.
And it's always fun to see just them erupt and live on every pitch, and it's fun. So, lot of great baseball on TV this weekend. Cannot wait, brother.
And Peter Burns is on deck tomorrow evening, right back here on the Stingray Show, Friday at 6 p.m.
Stephen, have a wonderful weekend watching baseball.